Hey brothers, Rob Cupp coming at you from Man Talk Monday from Denver International Airport. Been traveling today and some things have been rising up in me, so I just wanted to share them live with you. My experience and some things that I've been struggling and battling with, and some things I've noticed other men have as well. And so traveling, I'm in a busy place, and it's really easy around all these people and all this hustle and bustle and all this noise to still feel extremely isolated and lonely. and I've just been going through a season for a while personally that I feel lonely. I'll get to that in a second, but I think a lot of men do, that we feel detached, disconnected, and we can add people and things and activities and we just still feel lonely and isolated. And I think there's lots of reasons why that can happen. And so some of them are, there's some sort of a trauma or drama in our lives that cause us to maybe shut down a little bit, or there's stress that overwhelms us and we become burdened and can't feel connected because we're juggling too many things in our hearts and our minds and our heads. Sometimes there's like disappointments and circumstances like that. Sometimes it's just certain negative feelings that we have, feelings of inferiority, failure, you name it. But it seems that what often happens when things don't go the way God designed them in the world, our first response is to often pull back, and the enemy begins to pull us away and isolate us, and we feel alone. And that's the place where lies again can come in. We're easily taken out, easily live in our shadow, and so no matter how you got there, how I got there, it's important that we recognize that this is not how it was supposed to be. I'll just share quickly for me, like how I got to this place of just struggle and loneliness over the last little while. This last 12 months or so, actually it's been like 14 months now, I've been unable to work. I've been living on disability insurance because of long COVID and illness that it just incapacitated me. So I can do little things, but my body's fatigued. Some days my brain has total brain fog and I'm incoherent. I'm even struggling a little bit now to think like, is this gonna make any sense? Because my brain just doesn't work the way it used to. That began to happen a year ago on the tail end of just some really crazy things that happened in my business and in my career that has felt like failure anyway. I felt like I was on a downward trend, and all of a sudden illness gets laid on top of me and my body can't respond and recover, and so I began to get shut down. I'm often afraid to go into public because I don't know. I've been at church and people have come up to me and gone, "Why are you here? You look terrible." So thanks everyone. But I think there's just loneliness. And then a few weeks ago, on top of all that, as I'm battling and trying to get my health back and trying to get in good regimen and sleep and health and food and all the things that I'm doing to try to get my body back right and healthy, my wife and I had two close friends that were tragically killed, and it's a horrible thing, evil thing, and so in the middle of kind of feeling this struggle, this isolation, and this loneliness, this whole other event happens, and now we're grieving on top of it, and that just added even more feeling of loneliness. And so what's been happening to me personally has been I walk into places, and often if there's any relational need for me, I begin to panic, like almost a panic attack. But it's clear that my body, my soul, my mind do not want to be where I am. I find myself kind of holding back in conversation and relationship a lot. I'm willing to engage, but I'm not as extroverted and as outgoing as I usually am, and I'm just kind of protecting myself. And so I share all that to share kind of not woe is me, but just to give you part of my story about how I came to this place of loneliness. And one of the things I've been learning recently is I've been trying to figure out, how do I get out of what feels like a huge long rut for me. It's like lasted now over a year, and it keeps adding different components keep coming up and keep adding to this feeling of loneliness and maybe something I'm doing wrong, and I'm so stuck in this rut. And one of the things that I've been reading from a particular author that's been really helpful for me has been that when we go through difficulties, stress, trauma, pain, suffering, whatever it might be, again, when we go through things that it's not how God intended it to be, our bodies, there's science behind it. I'm not going to quote all the science to you, but there's literally, like, our brains start shutting down, like, if you want to call it this way, the relational circuits. And so we're just beginning to survive, and we're in fight or flight, and we're in survival mode, and struggling to put one foot in front of the other to move forward. And our brain and our body say, we don't need to make new friends. We don't have to connect with people. We don't even have to connect with God. And that is a part of why I think that I have felt lonely, and I think other men have felt lonely as well. Is it's not just that people can't relate to what you've been through. It's not just that people don't understand your situation. It's that literally because of stress, pain, suffering, trauma that you've experienced, your body says nope and shuts down all the relational circuits. And so so what do you do? Like, what do you do with that? And I'm again not perfect. I'm still on a journey, but I can tell you over the past few weeks some things that have begun to help me. And one of those things, I'll give you four. And the first one is I just had to start disrupting my life and my schedule to be with God again. And so it's kind of like Jesus in Mark 1:35. He's just starting his ministry. He's picked some disciples. He's doing a bunch of miracles, and he's in Capernaum, and everybody's excited about this new teacher with authority and all these cool things that he's doing. And he gets up early in the morning when it's still dark outside and goes to a lonely place to pray. And you know, that for some of you that's like, oh, that makes sense. And for others, I would just challenge you, like, it's been easy for me I didn't recognize that the relational circuits had turned off in my mind and in my body and in my soul toward God, and I didn't really want to connect. And so my habit that I'm starting again to re-engage has been not just to do, if those of you Braveheart alumni, to do your circle time and all of that, but to be thankful even for simple things, write them down, thank God for them, and then just listen, have a conversation with God and listen to him and see what it is that he might say to you. And it doesn't have to take long, it doesn't have to be, but it has to be an intentional thing that you set aside time and say, God, I'm here and I need you to turn these circuits back on. I need to be able to relate to you. I need life from you. And what we see in Mark 1 is that Jesus, when he's spending time with the Father, he gets his mission back. He understands his purpose. And so when they're like, there's so many, the disciples come to him, find him in the morning. There's so many things that need to be done, Jesus. And he looks at them and says, yeah, but I'm not supposed to stay here. Let's go somewhere else. That's why I'm here, is to keep traveling, to keep going from place to place. And so in that space, you might get marching orders, you might receive healing, you might receive truth that you need. And so just disrupt your schedule and spend time with God. That's the first thing. The second thing that's been really helpful for me is to create space for my wife and I. And I'm using space as not just time, but space. We've spent a lot of time together in our house and in our habits, and our normal things, and we often talk to each other, but we've recognized that we need to create new patterns and new space. And so, if this doesn't work for your spouse, find a close friend or one of your kids or something or someone that you can do this with. But for my wife and I, what we've been doing is after work, after she gets off work, and I'm kind of winding down my day of all the healing exercises that I'm trying to do, including sleeping and resting. We head over to our community pool in our neighborhood, and we don't even put our bathing suits on. We just, if I have our shorts on, we'll sit at the edge and dangle our feet in the water and talk for a little bit, and then lay on a lounger, and often she falls asleep and I'm resting, and I have a book sometimes that I take and I read if I can, but it's just intentional time to be together and rest. And for us, usually 30 minutes to an hour does the trick, but it's awesome. It's an awesome time, and I feel like when we get away from our normal space, my relational circuits turn back on. I'm not as overwhelmed. It's almost like a mini vacation where I can look at her and she can look at me, and this is why we love each other. We can debrief some things, but it's not heavy talking. It's just time to be together. So I encourage you to do that. Find a way to create space that's different than what you're used to with your spouse or a good friend, where you guys can just be together, no agenda, but just be relational and connect with each other in a really relational way. The third thing that I would say is to give yourself a ton of grace as you keep fighting. So rest, fight, recognize that you're in a battle, but you're also weary, and so it's okay that there's days you just don't want to be around people. You're in a healing process. It's not going to turn around all in a dime, so you can't fix yourself in a couple of hours. You can't fix yourself in a couple of days. It'll take a while for you to come back to the right place, to feel the healing, to feel the help that you need, and to feel comfort again, and to maybe return to yourself. I think that the last thing that I would say that's been helpful for me is do to others. So the fourth thing, just serve, bless, encourage other people. And often I've found that as I've kind of been in my lonely space, if I do the things, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, like as I do to others, I encourage and I share, relationship begins to happen. And like just this morning, I was with a friend of mine that I don't get to see very often, and we were actually driving around in his truck on his ranch, doing some chores, and just having early morning coffee. And it was just in that space that we shared some things with each other. I was trying to encourage him, and then I shared some of the grief of my life and what my wife and I are going through, and he immediately clicked in and he said, I've been through that. I lost someone too in the same way. And in that moment, as I was doing to him, he was able to do back to me, and God met me. So maybe get out of your comfort zone a little bit, text somebody, call somebody, serve somebody, and see what happens. And then give yourself grace and rest and keep fighting through it all. So brothers, thanks for hanging with me. I hope this blesses you on this Monday, and may God bless you as you fight through loneliness and isolation or whatever else ails you. May God be with you. Love you guys.